Good morning. My name is Antonio Fernandez Santa, and I'm going to be talking about which methods we use to estimate the active cases in COVID-19. These methods are essentially classified or reclassified in three classes. One is just taking the official data of cumulative number of cases, cumulative number of deaths, cumulative number of recovered cases, and just subtract deaths and recovery from cases. Unfortunately, what we found out that sometimes some of these parameters, in particular the number of recovered cases, is not reliable. So another approach is assuming that the number of cases that are declared on one day are actually active for the next 10 days, where 10 is a parameter found in the literature. Another approach two approaches are based in using the fatalities, number of deaths declared. One of them is using the time from onset to death to correct the number of cases, the cumulative number of cases, and transform that corrected estimate into daily new cases and then into active cases by extending them for 10 days as before. Another approach is just assume that the number of cases that happen on a given day is just is computed by looking at the number of fatalities 13 days after, which are the 13 is the day from time from onset to death, corrected by the case fatality ratio of 1.38% measured in Wuhan, and then assume that these values or these cases are active for 10 days as before. The third type of approaches are based on surveys. We use surveys that we have deployed and whose responses we collected ourselves, and we are also using data from a survey deployed by the University of Maryland in collaboration with Facebook. And these surveys have both direct and indirect questions. The first thing we do in these surveys is to filter them, because we found out that some of the responses are completely useless because they are giving like crazy or completely nonsense values. From those, the first approach is use direct questions, in particular the questions about symptoms, and select the responses that have a certain collection of symptoms and divide that number of responses with those symptoms by the total number of responses and obtain two different estimates that essentially use two different combinations of symptoms. Then we also estimate based on indirect reporting questions. For that, we look at how many people a certain person on average knows, and how many of those people are declared to have a certain combination of symptoms. These are the average reach and the average CLA local, and then the estimate of the ratio, percentage of the population that is infected or active, is just the ratio between those two parameters. Here we're showing the estimates we get applying these techniques to Greece, and as can be seen at the top, there is this line that is completely useless because the number of recovered cases is wrongly maintained. However, all the other lines, the three lines at the bottom, which are the surveys, and the two in the middle that are based on fatalities as described, with the ones extending the confirmed cases for 10 days, are quite consistent. However, if we look at India, the data or the curves obtained with confirmed cases and fatalities are rather consistent. But if we look at the data obtained from surveys, we see that they are 10 times higher, which probably means that the official data is underreporting by one order of magnitude. In conclusion, we have shown that there are multiple methods that can be used, and all of them could be useful depending on the quality of the data. And all of them can be used to obtain a better picture of what is happening. In particular, it's interesting to see that the surveys can be used in countries in which the testing and collecting the data is not available. And in particular, indirect reporting, which are way cheaper and easier to deploy, allow to estimate with certain quality and a smaller size of the sample.